Have you ever stopped to observe your mind? I'm not talking about thinking about something or solving a problem. I mean truly observing. Without controlling, without judging, without trying to change anything. Just sitting, breathing, and watching what happens inside your head. If you've never done this, maybe it's time to try. Because what I'm about to share with you could change the way you see not only yourself, but the entire reality around you. Imagine this. You're sitting still, in complete silence, without moving. What happens to your mind? It jumps from one thought to another, from one interest to another, like a flickering glitch in a system. It feels chaotic, doesn't it? But instead of trying to stop it, just observe, like watching streams of glowing code flow across a screen. Today, we're going to dive into something profound. The art of stopping, observing, and quieting the mind, not through effort, but through understanding. And by the end of this, you'll begin to see how this practice can bring clarity, freedom, and even true happiness. So pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and let's begin. Your mind is like a complex network of interconnected streams, always flowing, always in motion. And within the system, there's everything: thoughts, memories, worries, desires, fears. Just like a river carries leaves, branches, and even debris, your mind carries both the beautiful and the broken. But here's the truth. You are not the river. You are the one observing it. When you sit in silence and simply observe your mind without trying to control it, something extraordinary begins to happen. At first, all you notice is the chaos. Thoughts appear and disappear randomly, often without making any sense. You might even feel frustrated thinking, why can't I stop these endless loops? But here's the secret. You don't need to stop them. Trying to control your thoughts is like trying to hold on to the falling rain. It's impossible. The more you try, the more it slips through your fingers. Instead, just observe. Stand at the edges of your inner system, like a curious traveler watching streams of digital code flow through a holographic grid. Let the thoughts come and go. Let the emotions rise and fall. Don't interfere, just watch. And as you do this, something remarkable happens. Gradually, without any effort, the flow begins to slow. The noise quiets. The thoughts lose their grip on you. And for the first time, you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. Now let me ask you something. When you look at the world around you, do you really see it? I'm not talking about identifying things or labeling them. I mean, really seeing. Most of the time, our minds don't let us see reality as it is. They project opinions, judgments, and comparisons onto everything. You look at a tree and your mind immediately says, that's a tree. It's tall. It's green. I like it. Or maybe, that's ordinary. I've seen better. But what if for a moment you could look at the tree without those labels, without the interference of thought? What if you could simply observe it? That's the art of pure observation. To see the tree without projecting your opinions onto it. To see it as if for the first time. And this doesn't just apply to the world outside of you. It applies to your inner world too. You can observe your own thoughts and emotions the same way. When a thought arises, you don't need to label it as good or bad. When an emotion surfaces, joy, anger, sadness, you don't need to fight it or cling to it. You simply notice it. There's an extraordinary beauty in this kind of observation. Because when you observe without interfering, you begin to see clearly. You start to notice patterns. You see how certain emotions arise, how thoughts connect to one another. And most importantly, you realize that none of it defines you. But here's the deeper question. Who is the one observing? Think about that for a moment. When you sit quietly and observe your mind, who is the observer? We often think of ourselves as separate from what we're observing. For example, you might think, I'm the one watching my thoughts. But if you look closely, you'll see that this I is just another thought, another fragment of the system. And when you realize this, something profound happens. The division between the observer and the observed disappears. There's no longer you watching your thoughts. There's just observation, just awareness. In that state, the mind becomes truly silent, not because you forced it to be quiet, but because of the conflict between the observer and the observed is gone. Now, you might be wondering, how does this help with things like anxiety, anger, or jealousy? Here's the thing. Difficult emotions don't need to be fought. In fact, fighting them only makes them stronger. Take jealousy, for example. When you feel jealous, your first reaction might be to push it away or judge yourself for feeling that way. But what if instead you simply observed the jealousy? What if you asked yourself, where is this coming from? What's at the root of this feeling? Maybe you'll notice that jealousy arises because you feel insecure. Or perhaps it's because you're comparing yourself to someone else. And as you continue to observe, you start to understand the emotion, not intellectually, but deeply. And here's the secret. The moment you truly understand an emotion, it loses its power over you. This applies to any emotion: anger, fear, sadness. When you observe them, when you allow them to unfold without resistance, you begin to see them for what they really are. And in that understanding, they dissolve. But none of this is possible without awareness, without observation. And finally, we come to silence. The silence we're talking about here isn't just the absence of noise. It's not something you can create or force. True silence arises naturally when you stop fighting, when you stop judging, when you stop trying to control. This silence is alive. It's not empty, it's full of clarity, full of presence. And in that silence, you discover something extraordinary. You realize that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your memories. You are something far deeper, far greater. This is the essence of freedom: to see yourself clearly, to observe without judgment, to exist in the present moment without being pulled by the endless loops of the mind. So here's my invitation to you. Stop, observe, and see what happens. Take a moment today to sit quietly. Let the thoughts come and go. Let the emotions rise and fall. Don't interfere, just watch. And as you do this, you'll begin to notice the subtle shifts. You'll discover the beauty of silence. You'll find that the clarity and peace you've been searching for aren't somewhere out there. They're right here, within you. Stop, observe, and discover who you truly are. The matrix is complex, but each of us holds a part of the solution. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and together we'll see beyond appearances.